Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Got some news that some economists with the New York Federal Reserve just said Bitcoin's just another fiat money, just like limestones and seashells and everything were. But we're going to actually look at that and we're going to explain why it's wrong. One of the main things is that fiat money basically has value because its issuer actually has the confidence and value of people. For instance, the reason that Lebanese money recently had no value is because people didn't have confidence in the government. The reason why Petro and the Venezuelan dollar Bolivar basically is worthless is because people do not believe in the Venezuelan government. However, the reason the USD has money and it's wanted all over the world is because the US government has the trust of generally its citizens. Despite all the complaining on cryptosphere, the US dollar is still very stable and it has the trust of its citizens. And other countries want the US dollar because everyone believes in the US dollar. It does help that we have the largest army in the world, so we can always convince people to want our dollar. So fiat money basically has value because the issuer has value. These economists define fiat as any type of kind of currency that has value solely because people believe it has value. Now, that is actually true for Bitcoin. If people didn't believe Bitcoin would have value, it's actually useless. But Bitcoin isn't really backed by any kind of authority. The issuer doesn't really have much. The issuer of Bitcoin, which there isn't a centralized issuer, does not actually have trust of anyone. Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies, most cryptocurrencies outside of the stablecoins, are driven by market price, which the fiat money like the US dollar is not driven by market price. That's one of the actual sticking points of the US dollar. People don't really want a US dollar driven by market price. They want their money to be stable. They want their salary to be stable. They don't want their salary to be worth $10,000 one day and $3,000 the next day. So that's a huge difference, that there isn't a central issuer for Bitcoin, and that issuer is not what gives Bitcoin value. Bitcoin has value because of the market traded value. Yes, there is a decentralized belief in the value of Bitcoin, but it doesn't come from any central authority, and it's based on market value of what people are trading it at. If everyone decided to sell Bitcoin, it would obviously go down in price. If a lot of people wanted to sell the US dollar, it would still be a dollar. So that's a huge difference between Bitcoin and the US dollar. I think that is something that they have completely and utterly left out. So their economics doesn't really work for Bitcoin. I mean, it is completely digital, but that's not really like a sticking point because the dollar is actually going digital. It's permissionless, and the thing is, they can't print any more of it. People can make that an intrinsic value of a fiat a fiat currency as well, but probably not all that successfully, because that's also one reason why Bitcoin will actually never overtake the dollar in terms of becoming the de facto currency for any country. Because if you actually take away the ability for a Federal Reserve or a central bank to actually print it, you do actually take away the ability for like emergency bailouts. You do take away the ability for like emergency bailouts, and also the ability for the Fed to manage its own monetary and fiscal policy, and that's not a power that any central bank will actually give up anytime soon. Because think about it, I've said this many times before, and some people still don't really understand it. Like these pandemics and things, they will happen regardless of like what you use as money. It doesn't really matter if you're using Bitcoin or Ethereum as money right now. I mean, these pandemics still happen. They happen. Like they've happened several times throughout history. It's not like planned or anything. Like there was Black Death, there was like Spanish flu, there's been smallpox, and all these other things. They happen at random intervals throughout history, and none of those things were planned, just like this thing wasn't planned. And these things, they don't really care what kind of money you're using at the time. But the thing is, when these things happen, the economy will actually sort of shut down, especially now today with like social media. It will, and people know, like economy will shut down, and people are going to be at a loss of money. People aren't going to have money. The thing is, if you can't print money, you can't actually help the people that actually need money. If you try to increase the value of the money via market mechanisms, that basically only helps the people that already have money, whereas the people who don't have money still don't have money. Remember, a large value of money times zero money is still zero. So that would actually start a lot of riots if you actually did that. That you wouldn't have any real way to actually give people relief, and governments aren't going to go for that. Whether it's like an unstable government, a third world country, or the United States, they're not going to take that type of risk. So that's why it won't ever really replace the dollar, as I've explained many times prior. But there's huge differences in that they can't actually make more of it, so they can't devalue it by inflation. So you won't have this like 100-year trend of it constantly going down because there won't be more and more of it coming into the system, which also prohibits some kind of a lot of economic expansion as well. And it also doesn't gain the trust of a central authority. Those are two key aspects that must be present in anything to be considered fiat currency. Just because something derives value completely from people's trust in the coin and it's worthless if people don't trust it, doesn't actually make it fiat. You have to really look at where that trust and value actually comes from. And Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies derive its value from completely different sources than actual fiat currency. And that is why it is not fiat currency. All right, let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.